Hello and welcome, crochet friends, to G Crochet Off the Hook. I'm G Geraldine, sharing my love of crochet and crafting. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by to share in these adventures from my nook in South Africa. Now, much has happened during the course of April and May. In April, I actually did and learned how to schedule some videos that I did, which were 2 tutorials and a knit update. So during the course of April, though, I wasn't much at home, or there were quite a few other life events that were happening. So I thought being able to learn how to record and schedule videos would help me out, but I fear it's actually left me a little bit further behind because when May came round, we were hit with some chaotic weather in the eastern and the western Cape of South Africa, and this weather, I don't remember what they called it, event that happened was rather disastrous, especially and unfortunately where we live due to neglected infrastructure. Even today, as I'm recording this, and today is Thursday the 28th of May, there are still many people without electricity, and even though this is the first time in about 11 years, I think, that our dams are actually overflowing, there are many households without water. Now, we haven't drunk tap water for decades where we stay, so drinking water we are able to go and buy, but the actual water that comes to the house for you to shower and do washing and so forth, yes, that is lacking in many places still. And although this matter is rather serious, I am going to try and lighten the mood just a little bit and share with you, for instance, the state of many of our roads, and specifically a road that we travel to get through to the main city. I know I have seen many people across the world often comment on potholes in South Africa. Well, I tell you what, we've even made some of our own jokes recently, although it's not a joke to the vehicle owner who is sitting with very flat tires, but the potholes are so bad that people have started referring to them on group chats, to warn fellow motorists that are traveling the road as well. Avoid such and such road because you'll encounter a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom pothole. Because yes, some of them could swallow a car, many of them have damaged tires. Yeah, so it is, I do laugh at the jokes because it's the first time we've often experienced potholes, but this is the first time that us ourselves have actually heard them referred to as, real estate when you're buying a house, how large or deep these particular potholes are. And with this also obviously came the fact that I was unable to record, or, Wi-Fi connection has been really quite a challenge. So that's the weather. Now, I know I did mention already in January and during the course of the summer month that our humidity, because it is hot where we live, so you do expect temperatures to be 38, 39, 42 degrees Celsius. It doesn't mean that it's pleasant. Most of us don't have air conditioning. We rely on our trusty fans to blow hot air around sometimes, especially when the humidity is extremely high. And if perhaps you'd been with me since the beginning of last year when I started YouTube, I know that in one or two of my videos I commented on some of our fruit trees showing peculiar behavior, because usually my husband would make fig jam, and we'd have a lot of guavas that we would also pickle, and that is usually done and dusted by the end of December. And last year in February and March, I was actually showing pictures of how full the fig trees and the guava trees were only that time of the year. So they were completely out of sequence for when they should actually be bearing fruit. And of course, that particular trend extended this year as well by another month or two, or even longer, I should say, because by the end of March, the figs were only just starting to show little figs emerging, and the guava tree was so confused. It was trying to produce guavas, and at the same time only baby ones were starting to come out. And then this weather hit us. Now the weather hit us after a week of us being away to actually de-stress and unwind. And the week that we came back, we were gone for a week, we came back the weekend, and that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the severity of the weather hit us the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of that week when we'd returned from our trip. And it was rain and wind, and it was quite awful. And then it was Mother's Day weekend, and it was the Monday after Mother's Day that we had the tail end of something coming from the Western Cape as well, that just lashed out with wind. That I was actually in the garden trying to record the wind that I was seeing, because I had messaged my husband and said it almost looks like we've got mini tornadoes, you know, not they weren't tornadoes, but I'm just saying the way that the wind was traveling through areas in our own garden was something else. It was really surreal. And I had just come into the house, so I had just actually recorded one of our lemon trees, and when I looked out the kitchen window, I was like, gosh, that looks strange to me. What's going on here? And I went outside, and the tree was extremely heavy with fruit, and there must have been a weak spot, and from the way that the wind was traveling, it literally snapped this tree in half on the one side, and I was really quite heartbroken. And as the day went on, during the course of the afternoon, it totally uprooted a massive banana tree that we had right out. I mean, the roots were showing up on the back end of it. It was another surreal image to be looking at. And the other two banana trees, the very full-grown ones that were actually bearing bananas, they were hanging down low they actually didn't fall over or crack or break or anything. I think it was the way the wind hit it. Anyway, so needless to say, and Mother's Day itself, my husband and I were able to, and thank goodness we did. I tell you, sometimes there's just a gentle hand of guidance telling you that there are some things that you cannot leave for much longer at all. And we heeded that little voice that we were both hearing, and we had pruned the guava tree, even though it was having a crisis of when it should fruit or not fruit. We had actually just pruned it Mother's Day, and on Monday was when that wind hit, because if we hadn't, that guava tree I had pruned as much as I could reach on a little step ladder, and I had left the rest for my husband when he got home. He's much taller than me, and with the two of us together, we were able to prune down that guava tree, because if we hadn't, I actually think the kitchen windows would have been smashed, because the way that wind was taking control of anything that had a flow to it was quite interesting. So it was a very interesting weather event, and I am wondering what winter is going to bring us if we are experiencing these sort of cyclones in the weather patterns. So that is, wow, I wasn't expecting to actually get into all of that, but now we have, and I think I'm going to leave it in to the video as explanations to why sometimes, even though in the background, I promise you, I have been crocheting and crafting. That has been my way to just, tune everything else that's chaotic around me out. That is what's been happening with regards to the weather down here in our little nook of the Eastern Cape. So without further delay, let's get stuck into some of these finished objects that I have to share with you. And I'm going to start off with having completed another waffle stitch yarn ends blanket. Now I have sent off a 3x3 waffle stitch blanket, and when I last squared up with you about squares, I did show you that I had pinned together this waffle stitch blanket, and this one I did it's the 4x3, and this was just using a yarn ends with a 5mm crochet hook and play hooky. Is it play hooky? Oh dear. Play hooky with me. She has a square and a rectangle tutorial. So this is what it looked like all stitched together. I used the same slip stitch chain 1, which gave us that little bit of texture, staying with the waffle stitch texture. And then for this one, the border I chose to do was a block stitch. So I just did 1, 2, 3. 3 rows of the block stitch. And initially I thought, oh, perhaps the border needs to remain textured, but I'm glad that I chose to do this one because I think it still finished off the blanket really nicely. So that is our first finished object. And I just love the way all those little bits and bobs of yarn ends have made up these squares. And as I explained previously when we squared up, the only color controlling that I did for the majority of them, although there are a couple where I threw that out of the window as well, was that I tried to finish each round in a particular color before I took another one. But you can see even there, as the yarn ends were getting less and less, I just joined in a new color and went around. So that is a fun project if anybody is wanting to use up yarn ends with some texture. And it's small enough to just make a whole lot of squares and join it when you're ready to join it, and then play again with a whole lot of borders. So that's our first finished object. Let's put it up here. Then also during the course of, towards the end of April, I made sure that I tucked into a pattern that's been waiting. And I had it in this awesome project bag that we got. I also got my mom a bag. It was the beginning of April for her birthday. And it has such a beautiful saying on here, pray to him and he will hear you. Job 22 verse 27. So in this bag, crinkle crinkle, sorry about that, I decided to get stuck into at least one Amigurumi project that has been waiting in the queue. And that was for this pattern. It's an elf pattern by Crochet Confetti. It is, the pattern pack that I bought is 3-in-1, and it's for a deer, a snowman, and an elf. And it was the elf that I initially wanted to do, and that is the one that I have done. If I can, it's called the Christmas Elf, and I do hope to make the other two as well. So it's the Christmas Elf by Crochet Confetti. Now I used a 2.5mm crochet hook. Don't know where to put this. Okay, and the yarn that I used some Hubba Respect. Now this is 85% acrylic and 15% polyester. And I used my own colors. And here is our gorgeous little elf. Now I do believe that she uses an even smaller hook with smaller yarn for her projects. I usually use a DK weight and a 2.5mm hook. And this is our little elf. And I'm in love with it. So this is worked from the bottom up. It is all in one piece. I have sewed on the little elf hat, have I? No, I haven't. That was for something else. The elf hat comes off. The ears you sew on. I crocheted the arms in the round. And the only thing with this is that your arms are supposed to be 4 single crochet in a ring. I did not do that. I did 5, and I think they still came out well in proportion with the rest of the piece. Those little feet are so stinking cute. They were, I think they're also 4, and I'm pretty sure I might have also done a 5 in them. And a simple little scarf to go with it. Now for the face I did, and for the ears I did take out a little bit of blush. And I put a little bit of blush in the elf ears, on the cheek, and sort of where the nose would be. This didn't call for a nose specifically to be put on. The others that I make, I might just put a little nose on there as well. So, oh, I love it. It's just so cute. That's the little elf. And my plan, which I think I've mentioned during the course of time, it's been so long now because I didn't actually get to do it, but was to sort of marry up this little character with some wall hangings, because I have been itching to do, you can't see any of them right now, but I have been itching to do some wall hangings, and I thought it would be cute to sort of have a set, a little character and a wall hanging as well to go with it. So I had in my pattern stash, also from Crochet Confetti, is her, where can we see the picture? There we go. And this is the cute deer wall hanging. So I mean, this one as it shows up over there would be really awesome with the deer, which is also in the pattern. But I didn't specifically want to do the deer. I just wanted to sort of have it as an elf as well. So using a 3.5mm crochet hook and the pattern, I just left off, I changed the ears. I did the ears the same from how I crocheted them on the amigurumi, and I left off the horns and did the arms in the same color as the dress and the hood, so they do not show up on camera so well, but in person you can distinguish that it's the arms that she has there, and the two little pieces of a star that you crocheted together, which is also in the pattern. And then I just slip stitched it together and attached it to the arms. And I'm hoping I'll come up with a way to use what I have, and I have some other wall hanging patterns as well, but to do a few more similar. Oh, and this one I did do the nose, where you sort of you do one strand for the nose, and then you come up on the opposite end and you wrap that one strand around and around and around, and you get this little nose that pops up like that 3D. Of doing that as well. And then I do have, from previous wall hangings, I have some bamboo sticks that I just saw off. Normally I do drill into them, but I didn't drill into these two, and I just put a little handle on it there to be hung up. And for the fringe, I decided to just, where the dress was color changing, I added that into the fringe at the bottom. And that's our third finished object, is this cute little wall hanging. And I guess, if I wasn't thinking about it, but if you could, make a picture of it. If I had these colors, which sparked me to do some yarn shopping, you could marry the two together, so that it looked like this was a picture framed on the wall of this little character. But I think even like this, they are too cute. I am contemplating making a little, sort of a similar spiral, but 3D, and then sewing it and tacking it to the top over there. But there's always the next one that I can experiment that idea on. Okay, then move these out of the way. A little while ago, when I was going through the other little nook that I have with Crochet Craft goodies in, and I can't lift this with this hand. It's a very heavy file. I'll try to stand up with it. Many years ago, we used to get this, the Art of Crochet, little supplements, and you'd get a little thing of yarn with it, and then over time they sent you a file with a magazine when you bought it. I'm really going to try and unclip this because I cannot work my wrist with weight. So it would be sort of this little thing. Now I'm not sure who this is actually by now, and when I've looked at the patterns, I've tried to figure out who is who in the zoo here, like who are the designers and what have you, but they don't specifically say. And I have already segmented these particular inserts into the file, so I'm actually not even sure what is, I mean, that is the beginning of the magazine, but it doesn't have really any info on there. And of course, things like this, when we get them, the same with the Crochet Now magazine, I could only get if I happened upon it in a store. And the same was sort of with this many years ago. Needless to say, so I was going through the tidying up like we do, moving things around, organizing things so well that we know we're not going to find them again later. and I came across this Ibiza style top, and it called for some cotton, and I had, I'm trying to lift this up carefully, the file is heavy, so there's the top there. It's the Ibiza style top, gorgeous in this solid color. There it is there. And I had been looking at my cotton stash when I was doing the washcloths. So, oh, okay, let's put that down there. So I did have some of this our cotton on DK that we get here, and I had 3 colors of it: natural, moss, and brick. So, okay, been moving this arm just a little bit too much. So here are the 3 colors: the moss, the natural, and the brick. This is the yarn. And I have never done a top like this before, and I don't know why. But I thought I would challenge myself to try and make it, and I have, and it was quite a challenge. So you made 2 panels, or no, 4. 1, 2, 3. You made 4 panels, and here is the top complete. And if I remember, I will take my mic off, and I do have a tank top underneath this sweater. I'll put it on. It's not really the season for it right now. But anyway, you make 2 rectangle panels. This, I can't hold it with that hand. You make 2 rectangle panels like that, and then you make these 2 oval bottom pieces. And then you leave a neck hole. I whip stitched this like that. I whip stitched it there together. You whip stitch the arm and a section at the bottom, and then you join on again, and here I chose the moss, and you make this little sleeve section. Then you, sorry, I don't have mobility here right now. This round piece over here, you stitch on. It doesn't help from that direction. Let's try here. Okay, you stitch on all along here, and then close up that bit before you put this sleeve piece on, and just a tiny bit on the sides here, like that. So in essence, you're making 1 long rectangle, 2 of them, sorry, 1, 2, and you're making 2 of these pieces, and then you're putting it together as a top. And I think it turned out really well. And even though these were the colors I had on hand, I made them work and make sense for me. And I think even my youngest daughter, she did also fit it on. She also loves it. So I think come summertime, maybe the 2 of us will be jarring who's going to wear it. Wouldn't that be fun? Okay, so that was the next finished object. Then we were heading towards Mother's Day, and I don't know why, oftentimes when certain events roll around, I'm always thinking about baskets, either filling them with goodies to make as gift baskets, or things that are handy around the house that you can, put things in. So I was playing around with some of my t-shirt yarn that I have, and I landed up making a couple of t-shirt yarn baskets. Now this one is filled with acorns that my husband picked up for me on his walk when we were away, and I'd actually put them into this little basket. So it's two of the reasons why I love making things with t-shirt yarn, especially baskets, hanging baskets, or like I have over here, shells and so forth. But it's like the same with me working with cotton a lot. My hands really ache. When I use a very large hook and some very competitive, it challenges your hands, t-shirt yarn, then I also feel a lot of achy fingers at the end of a project. So I limit myself to how much I can, to the different things that I can make with t-shirt yarn. Also, the t-shirt yarn that I'm able to get my hands on is very inconsistent, and that is something many of us crocheters don't like with any yarn. But either there'll be a gazillion pieces tied together in the middle of the ball that you get, or the actual stretch and length of your t-shirt yarn is very inconsistent. So one minute you're working with this tiny thin little piece of t-shirt yarn, and the next it's like 5 times in its size. It's like really thick, and you'll end up cutting off pieces and rejoining and all the rest of it. So things like that made it unpleasant for me in the past to continue regularly making things with t-shirt yarn. Now, are there places that you could most probably get the t-shirt yarn that we see in t-shirt yarn tutorials and things like that? Most probably, but me being able to source that or get it delivered is another factor as well. So I just do it when I'm able to do it. Anyway, so I refreshed my memory on making your bottom piece, getting the little lip on here, and then different edgings that you can put on your basket. So I made that one. I made this one. This one my youngest already claimed for her bookshelf, just bright and cheery. And I had seen pictures on Instagram, and I had a few spare colors, so I did embroider it with flowers. I love it when it's with this t-shirt yarn because it really is a sturdy, solid basket. Then, before I made those, I made this one. And this was also what I had seen on Instagram, one of the t-shirt yarn people that regularly makes t-shirt yarn items. They made a basket with these, I don't know if they're roses or tulips. Anyway, I just made the basket the size that I knew I would use up the majority of this yellow t-shirt yarn that I had left. And on Instagram, I think there was a reel where she was doing it. I had watched the reel and I just came away. This is basically a popcorn stitch of 5. Did I do 5 or 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of 5. Lots of ends to tie in with this one. You know, once you've done the flowers, I've tied them off, put them down the middle over here. The rest of it is just hidden underneath the stitches, like the green, like you would normally do for the yellow one. But I think this turned out to be a really gorgeous, pretty basket. For what yet, we're not quite sure. But anyway, I enjoyed making that. And of course, while I was making that, and I just wanted to get rid of this yellow now, because this is one of those where I kept cutting off pieces to get, you know, a decent amount to work with. I did also make a few flowers. So here's one. Now this can be tied, you know, to anything to decorate it, or to, where did I see this from? Also on Instagram, and they were attaching this to hairbands. That's right, hairbands. So I didn't get that far, but I made a little flower just with different stitch counts and looks. Here was another one. So we had those 3 different flowers. And of course, I made a few hearts. So yeah, we had those 3 different flowers. I can't, this hand's not holding much at the moment. I just rested. And then different sizes of hearts. Again, they can just be used to attach to a gift, to embellish something, or like I had originally seen, onto a hairband. Be a nice bright little accessory on a hairband. But I didn't stop there. I had some of that red left. So I went about making these two, and I'm sure I'm going to get these to my mom. I'll let her choose which one she would like. These are nice and small and not evasive, to fill up a nice little space to hold whatever it is that you were wanting to put in. But I made these two with your standard flat circle at the bottom, and both of these are also finished off. The red's not going to come up so great, but with that, always going back to slip stitch chain one, slip stitch chain one, which gives us this beautiful little riffle. I use it on so many things. And I had some macrame, some very thin macrame yarn, and I made these two little ones. Now these I think will be great for, you know, putting your rings in, or your earrings or necklaces, you know, as you take them off in a little, and this can even slip into your drawer or stay on your cupboard, or just very handy, sturdy little basket. And I had put them on like this. So Mom, I'm going to have you choose. You can choose either one of the two that you'd like. That's definitely a sweet little gift idea of giving, you know, a basket. Sometimes the bigger ones are really pretty to make, but, you know, and then I always overthink, who am I giving it to make sure, do they have space? Would they be able to use it? You know, I don't want to give somebody a handmade something and know that they'll be thinking those same questions and perhaps not coming up with the right answer. And for these ones, like the other one, I had some of this ribbon, because I have a drawer full of ribbon. You know, when the kids were smaller and at school, you were always putting ribbons on certain things. So I actually just took this ribbon. It was quite a nice size. And I just surface crocheted this ribbon in to give another dimension of something being put onto the craft project. So that was the t-shirt yarn baskets. And then, of course, what do I have? I have two more finished objects. And these, I love making a fidget. And our friend Lynn from Lynn Penguin's Creations, she shared another beautiful tutorial. So go and check out her channel, and you'll be able to see where she did these fidgets. These are little star fidgets, and I absolutely love the way that they were put together, because you put on your beads first and then you do the crocheting, and they are wonderful small pocket fidgets. So I'll be excited to make up, especially since my youngest was going through and also clearing out a whole lot of goodies. She found a whole lot of her pony beads that will not be of any use. So I snatched them up and put them in here. So I am set to be able to make some more fidgets with the pony beads on hand. And then there are plenty of whips around me, which I'll be sharing soon. But to end off, and I got this just before Mother's Day, before it was after the rain, it was before the wind, and we nipped into a bookshop because I did get some books. But I also picked up this. I don't often get to see these little craft things, but in our bookshops, like I've mentioned before, and I'm sure I have a crochet kit here somewhere, I must still do. I picked myself up some paint by numbers. That's the picture over there, a little tulip thing. And with this, you got your canvas, you got 12 paint pots. I've already packed them away. And 2 paint brushes. Those are the paints that you got. It's just your average paint by number, which I can't even remember if I've ever done one or when I've done one. I know I've done coloring ins with paint by numbers. So those were very limited colors. That was the, it doesn't really show up, does it? But that was sort of the blank canvas, so that once you're painting over the things, you could refer back to where the numbers are. And voila, this is what I created. It's no masterpiece, but it was definitely a peaceful time making it. So what happened was, obviously, once I had finished doing the paint by numbers, I said to my husband, this really does look like I painted by numbers. So I had a few odds and ends of acrylic paints lying around. I think I just took, what did I have? I had a blue and a purple or something, I think. And I just mixed around the colors somewhat and tried to give them a little bit of personality so they didn't look so 3D. And who was I listening to recently? I think it was Lenan. And she was talking about, you know, this is a paint by number, but it's what you do, creating it, that makes it your own. And the same with our patterns. We look to a different type of talent. There are some people that can design patterns and make them, and there are people that can use the patterns from these talented designers and make it their own. And I was watching that when I had finished this, and I thought, yes, so here they gave us a paint by number, and it can look very pedestrian, like grade school coloring in, and then once you add your own flair, at least to me, it looks like I've made a little bit of, you know, an attempt at some good artwork. And this will definitely cheer up my craft room. Folks, I'm not sure how I'm going to edit all of this. I'm going to hope that I fall within a good bandwidth length of video, that I'm able to uplift it with the Wi-Fi that we have started to receive. And finish off here. This is my finished objects, all caught up for now, and I hope to see you soon with some knitted finished objects, quite a number of whips in progress, including a brand new mosaic crochet pattern that I started when we were away on our trip. Until then, do take care and let your sunshine shine through all your crafting.